let's make a start then. I sent out a note with an agenda on it, a list of things to talk about. I'm very happy to add other things to it if you can. Let's stop and interrupt anytime you like, really. But I'll start working my way through the agenda and see where we get to. Right. Okay. So these are responses to people who have responded to my asking the things to talk about on this session. So I'll just start and then see where we go. I was asked about recovering data from security copies and copies that we take. So I thought it would just be worthwhile running through what actually the copies that are taken by the system and by yourself and whatever you need, and so to get an idea of what you've got, where you can get information from if you need it. So it basically is two parts really. One is the essentially the database, and that's with all the data that's changing on a regular basis, which we need to take copy of, and the other is the files, the images and such like, that documents and that you've got stored on the system. So we just start off by looking at the database first. There is a daily copy taken of all your data, and basically it's the there's a table in systems details where you decide which one of the tables you want to copy, and there are about 100 and over 100 tables. So and obviously most are probably of not much use to you, but so you can select which ones you want to take, and the system once a day goes and takes a copy of those, and those are available to you to download as CSV files if you log in and into the security login on the system, which is the 5.9 security. It will then produce on the side menu a list of all the files that you've chosen, and you can just click on those to download those. Also, every day the system takes an SQL, in other words, a complete database backup in SQL format, which is also available to you in the security sign-on. So you can that information is there if you want the SQL. So you probably won't want the SQL, but it's there if you need it, which is what is used to restore the database if we ever need to do that. So on top of that, I take a copy on a monthly basis separately of both the CSV files and also the SQL files. So that's I've got those sitting in a I've got them sitting in a G drive somewhere safe. Then the second part is the images, the documents, etc. And at the moment, those are taken on a monthly basis by me, and they're zipped up into a very large file, and I take that and I store that in this G drive. So I think in the past we did have a feature where you could actually take those files yourself, but we ran into difficulties with it, that it was getting sometimes it got corrupted, sometimes it got extremely large and caused issues. So that's not there anymore. So if at any time, and I think this is where Dave, you asked originally, if you need a document file or an image that you've lost, deleted, that you didn't mean to, then I think the easiest way to get that back is to send me a ticket, and I can just stick it back in the system for you. It happens. Well, from my experience, it's happened so rarely that I don't think it'll happen very often going forward. But it is there. We've got it there. We've got it secured elsewhere. So those are the file copies, if you like. On top of that, there is the security backups that are taken, and essentially they are taken really to restore the system in case of any major hassle, major full breakdown, and that takes the complete system, programs, everything, the whole structure, the whole everything. It takes it on. Um, it takes it on a off-site basis. It takes a full copy once a week, and also then a daily increment as well. So we can go back to any copy, if we wanted to restore the complete website, we can go back 24 hours and stick it in if necessary. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it is. We can do it. It's we also take an off-site copy. In other words, copy taken inside the web hoster, and that's a monthly copy, which taken with a daily the daily increment. So again, we've got that same data stored on site as well as off site. And then obviously the top level of security is the fact that the web hoster themselves secure all their data for things like disk failures and all that sort of stuff, and they will recover completely if anything on those sorts of things happened. So there's lots of copies and lots of sort of security copies taken. So hopefully that's enough, and hope everybody's happy with that.
If I could ask Chris, what is actually stored at the web host, which is somewhere in the UK? Or is everything back in Germany where the data tables are held?
You're talking about the web hoster's copy?
Yes, yeah. What do we actually keep?
Well,
on the web itself, and what is actually stored in Germany, like you told us?
So, well, in terms, as I say, we take copies on a weekly or monthly basis, and then with daily increments. So in other words, effectively, it's a daily copy, both on-site and off-site. So on-site means it's taken where the web hoster is hosted, and off-site means it's stored in a Google Drive somewhere else in the world. To be honest, I've no idea where Google keeps their drives, but so it's secured in a different place. So, covered for a nuclear explosion in Germany, it's probably in America. So I think we're probably all right.
Yes, yeah. I was only interested what the web host, not what they backed up, what information they hold there, and which information they're just passing us through to the main store with Google, and not the backups, the actual data tables.
Yeah, sorry, I just still don't probably quite understand what you're asking. The data tables are held obviously where the web hoster is. It's held on there. They've got the big disks that hold all this information and provide, if you like, the web hosting service. So that's held, as you say, probably. I know it's actually now it's American owned, the web hoster, because it's part of GoDaddy. But it was in the UK initially, and then it went to Germany. Whether it's moved somewhere else, I'm not quite sure.
Right. Surely they'll have the whole of the service, not just our stuff, everything in there.
Yes, exactly. The whole caboodle. They've got their own security as well. So we've got about 3 or 4 levels of security. So we shouldn't lose anything really. They shouldn't. And it's not only just it doesn't hold just we don't hold just the last copy. There are I think that I can't remember. I think it's four versions of it is held. So even if we find that we've got to go back more than a day or a week, we can still do that if we have to. Right. Okay. The next item really was a question about rolling dates and how that works. And we have found I found I can't remember who. Somebody identified a problem recently, and they'll tell me who they were in a minute. But basically, what rolling dates is when you've got an interest group, and if you have a standard interest group, you can put a start date of the group and an end date of the group. And that's how we set it up originally. But over time, I think most people actually have their groups just running forever. And so what happens is now, if you select the rolling date, it actually runs the interest group from today for 12 months. So what effectively it does is every time somebody looks at that group, it updates the end date to 12 months from the time they look at it. So it always keeps the end date 12 months ahead. We originally start. I think it was Richard Stenning identified the fact that there was an awful lot of the start date that came up on the site said starting from a date which may be 3 years ago, because it's still rolling. It was changed in the last version so that the start date was also updated to today's date. So if you go into it anywhere, it'll be from today for 1 year. Now that was okay until somebody, I think it's Roy, it may have been Roy at Worthing.
Yes, it was.
It was you, Roy. Oh, good, got it. Who have got some groups which start sometime in the future. And so what was happening was that it was going in and having a look, and it was every time somebody put the date in, it was setting it back to today. It's the start date. So now it doesn't do that anymore. So now it only updates the start date if the date is past, not future. If it's future, it leaves it. So in theory, if you set it for 6 months ahead, you'll only have 6 months of dates, because the end date will always still be 12 months ahead. So that really was the sort of the reason for that, anyway.
In the next version, you're going to change what it shows on the group list. Is that correct? Because at the moment, we're getting a lot of comments that it keeps changing the date.
Oh yes, yes, that's right. That's right. I think you raised a ticket about that, didn't you? I think it was to change. So the wording for rolling contracts don't actually actually mention the start date and end date.
Yeah, that's it wasn't right. It wasn't me, but
okay.
We discussed that last time. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I think it might have been Richard then. Yeah, that's right.
Have we any idea when that change will be made and the new version rolled out, Chris?
It will be in 7. So at the moment, there's not a lot in version 11.7. And as I say, it's not a major change, but it is. We haven't got everybody on to 6 at the moment, but it could be done. It depends how urgent people find it, want it. If it's something that people need urgently and think it's worthwhile doing urgently, then we'll chop 7 and when I say chop 7, I mean close off 7 and make that available, and then start the next version 8 if that's what people want to do. So let me know if you do. If it's important, then I'll do that.
It's important to me as a new user, but I guess the other guys have got used to it over the years.
Yeah, well, I'll do that. I don't think there's any. It doesn't cause any inconvenience to go on to 8. So I mean, it's just a way of doing it. So if it's something you want, then I'll do that and close off 7 and start 8.
There's a ticket I've raised recently, Chris, as well, about the printing of the group list is missing some words. But so when you update whatever you're doing on 11.7, then that ticket may go part and parcel of it.
Is that anything to do with those changes I've just explained, do you think?
It's not to do with the rolling end date. It's when you go on the print icon on the group list,
yeah,
and print a PDF, whether it be the large format or the concise format, it says on Mondays or whatever day, and then there's a few words missing, and then it says the rest of the sentence. So it's not extracting all of the text from the group list to print out.
Right. Okay. But it didn't used to do that, so I suppose it might be one of the recent changes that's caused that.
Possibly. It's on 11.6 and 11.7.
Yeah, right. Okay. Right. Okay. But it's the same. It's basically the same thing. It's what the frequency says on either on the print or on the sheet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check that out. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. The next thing was about emails to unpaid members, which I was asked about, and I just wanted to use that as a reminder, really, that everybody's got when you send out your renewal payment requests, you've then got a further feature which you can set a date in the future, and the system will send an email to anybody who hasn't paid, if you like, as an automatic reminder thing. If you set the date, I don't know whether people use that or not.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
You do. Okay.
In fact, I've reset the date and sent it again.
Yes, that's right. I was just going to say that exactly. You can, once you've set the date, you can move that date forward a month, and then run it, and then it will run automatically again a month later to pick up anybody else who still hasn't paid. So it's so you don't need a bulk email for it. The system has already got that built into it. Right. Okay.
Chris, just on that before you move on, I don't know whether I've sent an email recently as well as a ticket. And I don't know whether your email's gone into spam, because on one of the aspects of the email was about the reminder emails, and we recently had a couple or more go into spam, and the automated title that's on the reminder email says payment due, and I don't know whether Google was filtering it out because it was a demand for a payment. So I didn't know whether we needed to change the title maybe.
So, okay. Yes, you've got control of the text, haven't you? You can,
yeah.
But you haven't got. You're saying you haven't got control of the title.
No.
That sounds like a good idea.
So what should the title be?
Well, at the moment it comes up payment or reminder : payment due for whatever group, I think. But I'm not sure what the title should be, but
perhaps renewal rather than payment.
I can't remember if I suggested anything in my email.
I can't remember seeing that. I might have slipped through my net. Yes.
It was sent from my admin account rather than my personal one.
Probably went to spam.
It could well have gone to spam.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I'll have a look at that, and yeah. So it doesn't want to say payment.
No.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll think of something with not payment. Okay. Righto.
Bitcoin.
I'll pay up or else, I think.
Right. The next thing was I was asked to try and do some very basic HTML, just to perhaps just remind others or those who haven't used it before, might be who right at the start. So I've just put a very small demo together for that, and I'll go onto the system and right. Okay. So what I was going to do is just, as I say, run this very, very, very simple HTML example that hopefully will get people started if they haven't done it before, and then something to build on. What I'm using is, which I was going to use, is this new tiny, non-tiny. In other words, this is not going through tiny MCE. This is just selecting a page and putting the HTML into it. So I'm just going to use additional page 12. So I'll just take that out to start with. Right. Okay. The first thing. So at the moment we got, as I say, additional page 12 here. It's got absolutely nothing in it at all at the moment. So the first thing you need to do is to put it inside a container, and you do that by having it's a div which is a start and an end. So that's so everything you do is contained within this. It is important that you can mess things up if you don't get the divs balanced, because you so you've really got to work inside this div here.
You must always have an opening and a closing.
You've got to have an opening and a closing one. That's right. You open it with the div, you close it with a /div.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to do is just put some text. Okay, so the first thing to do is put some text in, just any old text, which is I've just copied this into there. So what I'll do is update that, and then we can look at what that looks like. And so all that does is you've just got a load of text. So it started off, as you perhaps saw, with paragraphs, but when HTML looks at it, it hasn't seen any paragraphs. So we have to add some paragraphs. So we'll go back and what paragraphs are P's. So again, you use these tags and open a P tag to open it and a /P tag to close it. Those in briefly. So returns don't do anything in HTML, so it doesn't pick it up. So you have to actually put these in to actually spread out your text to make it look reasonable.
You could also put line breaks in.
You can put line breaks in. Yeah. You could put VRs in. But I think the proper way is to probably lay out your paragraphs.
Yeah.
But
this is sorry. The non-tiny updates option is part of 11.7, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, right. Okay, fine.
So you'll find it in your test system, but it'll be in everybody's live system because they're going to move 11.7 across. So anybody who wants that can have that. Yes.
I believe I'm right. I believe I'm right, Chris. For those that don't know, if they haven't done HTML, the difference between a P tag and a BR tag is a BR tag is the same as shift and enter, whereas a P tag is an enter, so it's a full paragraph shift.
And you also get a new. It starts on a new line.
Yeah, exactly. It's a shift. It's a shift and enter rather than just an enter. An enter gives you a paragraph shift, and whereas a shift and enter only gives you a new line, as it were.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, a BR just moved one line down. So, which can be, you might want some on time to time, but
I use them a lot.
Right. Yes. Okay. So what you might have noticed that when I put one div at the bottom here, this closing div, it's added another one, and that's me being safe really, because it doesn't matter how many closed divs you've got. If there's too many, it just ignores them. But if you've got too many open divs, then that can mess up the whole of the website. I mean, the whole of the page, including the menu and everything. So by default, every time I update it, I add a div at the end just in case. So it doesn't matter, but you can just remove them if you've remembered to put it in.
Do you do that as a matter of course, Chris? Have extra /divs? Because I've often wondered, I've looked at some pages where you put stuff in and I think, what's there extra divs in there? I don't get it.
I don't think I've done it anywhere. I might have done, but I don't think I certainly did it here just because, for safety.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so we put some paragraphs in. It still doesn't look very good. So so perhaps what we want to do now is to add a heading. Just so
indent it a bit.
Yeah, coming to that. Yeah. Oh dear. Right. Okay. So let's. So you can use, well, you can put a heading in any way you want. I've just done it this way for the time being. Put a tag for H1, and close it. So it all depends on what the system defaults are about what it thinks H1 is, but it's meant to be a heading. But in this case, I want to define my my own heading. So let's put in.
So where does it get the H1 from, Chris? Is that something you defined?
As a heading one.
Yeah, it's normally a system default. You know,
a part of Unix or something.
No. Sorry, in HTML you can have 6 levels of heading, and heading 1 is the biggest in terms of size, and H6 is the smallest. So you can, for instance, at the top of a page, you'd probably use H1. Further down as another section header, you might use H2 or H3, because you're using the size of the heading to indicate, if you like, its importance. Obviously, the top one should be the biggest, and then as you go down in less importance, you can then change the number. So you go H1 big down to H6, which is quite small.
So whatever's been defined as the system typeface, that will just, the headings will be just graded accordingly.
Or if you wanted to, you could change after the H1 and before the little greater or less than sign. You can actually change the size that you want it, so you can overwrite what the system says.
Right. Well, the system here has nothing, has no default in it.
Oh, right. Good. Okay.
So that's what I was just going to do and say that you know what'll happen is it just comes up like that as normal. Yeah. So you've got to use this again to put some styling in. And what I've done here is you do it using a style parameter. I've put in here. Okay. Right, and I'll just break it up so we can see what we are. So I put three style parameters in. One to say, well, we want the heading bold, and they use font weight for that. Then a second parameter. So sorry, I just explain the format of that style. So you have the name of it first, then you have a colon, then you have the parameter you want, and then you have a semicolon, and then you can join them all together. So there's a second one which is font dash size, and again, what I've done there is I've put in 1.2. In other words, I've said whatever the size of text, the standard size, which we're looking at, make it 20% larger, 1.2 to the size. But you can be more precise about it. You say you want 16 px, or there are lots of ways you can define the size, but I've just done that by this for the time being. And then I put a text align to say I want the text to show in the middle. So if I now update that and have a look, so it now puts it in the middle at the top, so you can fiddle around whatever you want. So as Neil says, it looks this doesn't look great because it's hard up against the left hand side. So you want to put a margin in, and so again you do that with style. Style, yeah. But this time you want everything inside the container to be have a margin all the way around. So what I've got, so again this time you put a style parameter inside the top one, inside the div. You could put it inside the paragraph if you wanted to, or inside the heading only, or whatever. You can do what you like, but basically this, by putting a style, this is the style parameter, and it's margin : 20 px. So in other words, it's on all four sides, it's allowing 20 pixels of space.
Can you then define, since that gives it your all four parameters, can you actually define them individually like you can for around a photo?
Yes, indeed. Yes, you can.
So like top, right, bottom, left.
Yes, exactly. So if you go back in there to that again, and if you only wanted to have the margin on the left, it's this dash and then left.
Yes.
So if you do that now,
the order is top, right, bottom, left.
Yes.
But now you see, I've just put it down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So if you define it, but as you say, if you put all four, you can actually do all four in the same margin parameter by just listing them out.
Yeah.
And it goes around clockwise.
So it works in an identical way to margins around pictures.
Yes, it does. It's the same thing. Yes, it is. Yes.
I think I'm right, Chris. Tell me if I'm wrong, because there's quite a few of us on here that do know sort of a reasonable amount of HTML. But if there's anyone on here that doesn't know it, I think W3 Schools has got big sections on HTML, hasn't it?
Yeah. Great for that and SQL.
Really is good.
It is, and for that and SQL.
Yeah. So if anyone's unsure about HTML markups and what have you, if you go to the W3 Schools website, that gives you a lot of information about them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So it's well worth using. Well worth doing that.
I learnt mine when Front Page was about, so I'm a bit out of date. So I quite often go to W3 Schools.
And me. Right. Okay. Next thing is let's. So we've got a page with some reasonable looking text on it. So the next thing is to add perhaps just to add an image. And so this time we'll go to any of the images you've got stored in the system. You can do them from elsewhere if you want to, but let's just. You've got here. You can just. I've got a guy in a top hat here. So if I can copy the image tag here by just clicking on there and then going back to there. And so if I now, let's say, put my image tag there, I'll just make a space so it just looks a bit sensible. So that's what it's done. It's taken the reference to that image and by doing that copy. So now it's surrounded it with now what's an image tag img, and so now if we have a look at that, oh right, that's probably a bit big. So so it's taken it at full size at the moment. So probably the next thing to do is to change the size, and you can do that. Well, there's lots of ways of doing it, but just for ease, I'm just going to do it with a width. So inside the image one, I'm just going to say width is 100 px. So I'm just going to make it 100 pixels wide. And so that will now resize the example down to something a bit more sensible. Something that's used quite a lot is because you don't want an image just on its line on its own. So you want to surround the text around the image, and so if you use you can use a thing called float, which floats the image, and so if you go back to link, update it, put it in the image, So what I've done is put style equals float left, and now we have a look at that. It runs the text. It runs the text around it. Now this time, we don't. The text is hard up against the image. So so as Neil was just talking about, we can just put a margin around the image just to give it a bit of space. So you won't put another style parameter in, you just put a second parameter into the existing one, and you put margin right 10 px or something like that, and have a look. And so now you've got a bit of space around it. Right, just a couple of other things, and then I'll move on because obviously time's getting on. First thing I wanted to do, I know that wanted to get a link added, and a link added to a from a file in your Google Drive, which I think is probably something that we would use quite a lot. To do that, you go into the Google Drive. So in your G Drive, you just pick up the file that you want, click on the thing, click share, and then you want anyone to look at the link, because you can restrict it to just a limited number, but anyone, copy the link, and then back again to the...
Remember to change the tab.
Yeah. I'm there, aren't I?
Yeah, you're there now.
Right, good. Okay, so now... Right, so there's the link. So now, in order to get that, you've got to put around it an A tab, which is basically a link to somewhere else. So, and you put href equals start, and then you close the thing, and then you say what you want to say. PDF file, and then you close the A link there. So all you've said is, here is the link I want to go to. Here's the anchor text you want, and just update it there. And so now you've got this link here, and this should go to. We'll open that file. And there, now you've got that. You can see that file from the that's got from the Google Drive. Right. Okay. The only other thing I might just add to that is, if you're using links, it's always best to use this parameter inside your A link, which is. I'll show you again. It's target equals underscore blank. And if you do that, that means, well, I'll just show you what happens if you do that. It's so if we now look at the example, it's there, and if I click on the link, it doesn't it opens a new tab next door, and you can say you still stay where you are, and of course you're not going to see this because so it's on a new link. So so I've still got my original one here. So it's always worthwhile putting that in.
What I tend to do when I do that, Chris, is next to where you've got underscored PDF file, I just put open brackets, opens in new window, or opens in new tab, and that way they know to look for another tab.
Yes. Although it automatically
it jumps you to the PDF, but then they know that if they hit the back button, they're not going to go anywhere, but they've got to look for the tabs on the top of their screen, as it were, because otherwise people are going, people are hitting their back button, back, and it's going nowhere.
Yes. Okay, so that's all I was going to do. Just you know, it doesn't set up, you know, it just gives you a start, really. It's something to play with. You've got the test system, so you can use that and you can play around with these and hopefully, you know, create, because there's about, as we saw, there are, what's that, probably for every one of your groups, plus also another 20, 25 pages that you can configure with HTML yourself, and you can do it here, or you can do it inside systems details if you want to.
Can I ask a quick question before you go? Is it possible that page you created, could you send it to us? That I can
Yes.
practice what you just done.
Yes, I will. Yes. Yeah.
If I look at Brian Jones's page, it's just full of code, and you don't know where to start.
Yeah, there's too much in there, Alan.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Alan, I'll send it out to everybody. HTML page. Okay. Right. Okay. So everybody happy to move on?
Yeah.
The next thing was I have sent out a note to everybody and sort of invited them, asked them whether they would like a sort of health check on the website about what they're using, what they aren't using, and maybe what they might want to use. Fairly good response so far. I think I've had 16 responses so far. So it does take quite a while to do. So I was planning to sort of do it over the next couple of months, but anybody who hasn't asked and want it, then let me know, and I'll do theirs as well. So far, I've done Chandlersford and I've done Shoebury, and there's quite a lot of things in the thing that people could consider. But anyway, it's just to say that if anybody wants to, as I say, let me know. Right. Okay. Next thing really is to do with the future of the system, and really, I sent out a note a little while ago, or a week or so ago, about planning for the future. This is not to say I have any intention of stopping providing support for this at all. It's just we just need to have some plans in place. Should unfortunate incidents happen and I'm unable to carry on.
Should the mythical bus hove interview?
Well, not just
exactly.
That,
yes.
not just that. As we all get older, really.
Yes.
But presumably it's on your risk register.
My risk register.
Yeah, that the bus might come along.
Yeah. Yes, it's definitely on my risk register.
Good.
Not that I'm going to be able to do much about it if it does happen.
Well, yeah, when you're under the bus, it's a bit difficult to read it, isn't it?
So anyway, the point was that we started to try and see how, in order for the thing to carry on, the most important thing was that somebody, that it was owned by somebody, that it could be passed on, and we don't have to do it after the event, but we have to do it now, if you like, so that when if and when it happens, then it's already sort of owned by somebody else. And so what we were trying to do was to we had a chat with a legal mind crew who advised us that a U3A couldn't own any. They're not allowed to own anything, which I was very surprised about.
Yeah, because we're unincorporated.
Yes, because you're unincorporated. Yes. So the recommendation was that that it was passed to some one or a multiple number of individuals who would act, and I'd sort of call them, for the want of a better word, custodians of the system, if you like, and they would basically manage the sort of things that one would have to do. I wrote it down here: protect the existing users of the system by supporting their agreements. So in certain but also have the right to grant new licenses and authorize changes to the system. So it's not a sort of an onerous task, but the idea was to do that now. Try and find maybe 3 people, because I think sorry, I've forgotten her name.
Judith.
Judith advised that 3 was a good number, because then somebody can't do anything on their own. They always need the agreement of one other person to do something, and therefore it seemed a good number of people. Also thought that it would probably a good idea if those people had some level of technical knowledge, so that they could also start maybe to learn a bit more about what the system does. So in the event of something happening, they've got the access to be able to do things, and also be able to, if you like, lead the rest in terms of what needs to be done for the future. Now, I sort of asked for some volunteers, and Laurie's put his hand up, which is great. Thank you very much. So I think Richard was a reluctant half hand, wasn't it? Yes. So anyway, so it's worthwhile if we can get 3 people who will be willing to do it, and then we can perhaps get together and plan, and I think the idea was that those 3 people would have a license. I would grant them a license that would mainly only take effect if I was no longer able to carry on the thing, then that license would automatically come into place, and therefore that control would be there. And then maybe that group can decide maybe the best way to whether a single web hoster could provide it, or carry on with the existing web hoster, and decide about where support can happen and that sort of thing. So
you missed a bit out, Chris. Have you missed out the fact that we need to also, underneath the custodians, we need a user group,
a steering group?
A steering group.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I imagine they're going to get they would take guidance from an overall group. I think the difference was that the steering group can be set up after the fact, if you like, whereas the custodians need to be in place probably now, really.
Yeah.
So
I think it's wise that we have a contingency plan. That's the main thing, personally.
Yes. Absolutely, we want to be able to. There needs to be continuity. That's what it is, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Okay. So, if anybody
would there need to be any constitution with that, Chris, or not?
Well, we're going to need a legal document,
right?
And Judith was very
kindly. She said she'll make the bare bones of it for us to fill in the necessary details.
Right.
So
that's even at the custodian level, not the steering committee level.
Yeah. There's what our powers are, what we can do, and how we pass it on to other custodians. Because the point of having 3, if one of us died, that it can be the other 2 could pass it on to, and not so there's always 3.
But given that we're bound by, isn't there a time limit to how long we can occupy these various roles?
Well, it's nothing to do with the U3A as such.
Yeah. This could be anybody.
Oh, I see. So really, we could be outside the U3A, but still involved.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. That's fine.
Yes. No. I think that's that was what Judith was very keen. It was.
Yeah. Same. It's leaving in the U3A was problematic.
Yes. Exactly. So, okay, well, we'll obviously try and sort of I'm not here.
You'd already recruited me. You thought you'd already put me down.
I have. I hope you have. Yeah. If we can find perhaps somebody else who would see who's interested. But anyway, if you are, let me know. If you and then we can work out. I think this license also has to set out things like the fact of the steering committee would be set up at some point, in which case you take guidance from that, all that sort of stuff as well. So we've got a few bits to put into it, and maybe once we've got that license, then we'll let everybody have it, and let's see what they think, and take it one step at a time, really.
Yeah, because I think, didn't we mention the most immediate problem would be paying for the web host? So we need it all set up so as it doesn't come to at the end of. If nobody's paying for it, of course, it all stop. It
would, yes. So that's right. So again, it's that sort of thing is going to have to be in the in somehow in the licensing. So Laurie, you're happy with that, I guess? Are you?
Yeah, yes, I am. There is, as well as the hosting payments, some of us also need to have continuity for our domain names, which I think are under your control.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, I think what we can do pretty much immediately on that is that they're only under my control because I've got the password and the sign-on. So if the custodians also had the password and the sign-on, then I think that hopefully we can deal with that quite easily. Right, good. Okay. Anybody else want to talk anything else about on that?
Chris, did you Crewe and Nantwich, is that a proper U3A site?
Yes.
Because I was just curious why I can get into the user documentation on their site.
Only on one folder.
I'm getting all of it.
Are you? Well, it's not. That's not how it's set.
Well, I appreciate. No, the only reason why I was asking is there's a little on the thing about the 4 email bits. It talks about if you set up a Gmail account, you have to give a person's name. No, you don't have to. You can set up a Google account in a role's name. You don't have to give a person.
We've got about 18 of those.
Yeah, that's right. No, I'm just saying. Yeah, but I was just saying that's a little bit misleading.
So, Tim, are you talking about the user documentation or the user documentation which is aimed at the administrator? So, in other words,
it's. It's the documentation that I can look when I log into Shubin.
Right. Yeah. I put it on there deliberately because that's the only way that I can let other people see it.
Oh, right. Okay.
I didn't consider it secret.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it makes good bedtime reading for some people.
Well, some people love that sort of thing, like me.
Well, yeah. Okay. That's right. No, it's all right. It was
worried me there. I thought you meant you could see all in our folders.
Well, I don't know yet. I see. Right, that's fine. Now I understand.
Good. Okay. Right. Okay. So I think that sort of brings us down to the other issues people want to raise, talk about, need help with.
I've got a question, Chris.
Sure.
I noticed you keep getting emails from Google Analytics saying they're doing something drastic on the 1st of July. What action do we need to take individually, if any?
None.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, no, it's because we gave up using analytics because it became so focused, if you like, on sales. It really, the sort of information you could get out of analytics was very difficult, to get anything useful, which is why you've got the usage analysis page in the admin side now. So you can, the sort of information in terms of numbers of pages, who's looking at what, is in that in a much easier to understand format than if you use Google Analytics. So no, nothing needed there. Yeah. Okay. One question I just wanted to ask people: are you, when you finish with a group, do you delete the group, or do you archive the group?
Well, I've archived ours because some of them contain financial information that we may want to look at. I mean, because if I delete it, I take it takes all that with it.
It does. Yeah. It does. And yes.
Where does the archive go? Does it go into the archive store?
No. Basically, you've got another link. You've got another. If you know where you've got your group list, you've got an archive. One of the buttons or one of the links is archive groups, and so you can click on that, and it gives you all the archive groups.
Who can see the archive group? Is it just the administrator, or can the group leader whose name still see it, even though it's archived?
I think.
Can you show us, Chris, where this goes?
I will.
Because I'm totally baffled by that.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's see if I can find
it. It's a different colour, basically, if you're in the list, to alert you to it.
Oh, so they remain in the list.
Right. Yes, I was just wondering if you can see it.
Now I'm with it. Right. So they
No, they don't remain in the list. They're gone.
Are they? I've still got some. Sure.
Yeah, no, they've gone.
Maybe the admin can see it.
So hang on a minute. Let me just share a sec.
We
They
tend-
used to be in there, but once there was a separate page, then you've got this link now. You can use.
Right, it's better.
So called archive groups.
Where's that? Where's that? Hang on. Where? Oh, in the left-hand menu.
Yes, left-hand menu called archive groups.
Right. So we have to enable that obviously as a button in the left-hand menu.
Yeah. Well, yes. So if you are actually archiving rather than deleting, it's something you can use. Yeah.
Right.
Which roles can see that?
Well, that is a good question. If you give me 2 seconds, I will check.
Because what we've tended to do, because we don't use the finance module at all, is when a group ceases to be, as it were, we make them draft, but then the poor old admins are sitting here thinking, what the hell are all these groups? So,
all these blue ones.
Yeah, after a period, and funnily enough, it was only last week, myself and Louis went through them and went, that's gone, delete, that's gone, delete. So it might be worth using the archive thing. But then again, as I say, we don't use the finance module, so there's not much reason to hang on to them.
Anyway, the answer to your question is administrator and group coordinator.
Right.
Okay.
As opposed to draft then, because if the draft, it's the group leader and admin and coordinators and admins, isn't it?
The administrator or it's not actually the group coordinator. It's anybody with group authority.
Right.
So that's not the group leaders, but it's the group authority.
So if the restricted coordinators, they wouldn't be able to see it.
They wouldn't be able because they're not. They're actually they're not. Right. Okay. Alan was asking me about wanting. You want to send emails to people who haven't logged in for some time,
or perhaps any report that we've written, or Brian's written in my case. You might want to send an email to all the people listed in that report.
Okay, right.
So it's already pre-set up to send to every member or to every member who's not paid. That's all in the system, isn't it? But what if we want to add more availability of more email?
Right. Okay, so at the moment in bulk email, you've got so in bulk email, if you set up a new bulk email, you've got these preset selections. You've got things like not renewed and
we don't see that drop down, Chris.
You don't see that drop down. Okay. Well, so you can see that. You obviously see that here. They're right. There's you can see no selection there. Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. There are 19 selections there of people that you can select on, such as group leaders, specific group leaders, or all group leaders, which are secondary leaders as well, on a waiting list, all sorts of stuff, not registered for gift aid. So you can use those to select people. And if you use those selections, so I'm just going to select full members. Right, you can see that. Yep. So you've got, I didn't give it a name, but you've got this refresh list, so that if you come back to, if you keep that bulk email, you've got that link will keep that up to date. As long as you click on it, it will go back and have another look and see if the selection you chose has changed since you created it, and then we'll produce that. But I think what you're saying, Alan, is that you've got people who you want to provide them with maybe you've done a report, and therefore you want to be able to send an email to the people who are the result of the report. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So what you've got in the report writer. So I don't know whether we can just run see if this one will work. So. Any report you run that contains the name ID from the tutor table, this one does, you get a link here called export to bulk email. And so once you've run the report, so there's 75 people who've come out of this. So if you want to send an email to those 75 people, you
I can't see the membership number, Chris.
No, it's now come up not appropriate. So
I'm going to say. I was missing something then.
I'll try again. I'll try another.
Find another query.
And it is only the one out of the tutor table, isn't it? Not any others.
It's only the one thing from the from the.
Yeah, you can make sure it's that one you use if you've linked.
Let's try this one. So for some reason, I don't know, there's 133 being selected for here, for lists of people. They've got the name ID there. So having the name ID, click on export to bulk email, and it's created a now it's created a bulk email named members record 2, which was the name of the report. So if we go back into bulk email, you can see it's created an email, a bulk email here, which you can view the list with all 94 people on it. There they all are.
And I believe I'm right in saying, Chris, that on that report there were more than 94, but the bulk email will only create 94 people because there's only 94 in that list that had email addresses registered.
Perfect. Yes, I should have said that. Yes, that's right.
So if there were 100 people, if 6 of them didn't have email addresses in that report, those 6 people wouldn't go into the bulk email list.
That's right. That's
likewise right. If there were duplicates, if it was something where it was to group, to people in groups, they're more than one group, it would amalgamate those.
Yes, it would. That's right. It only has one.
Only does one entry per person.
Per group. Yes, that's. So is that answer your question then, Alan?
When I see the recording, I can follow it through and try and do it. That was the key thing, isn't it?
So it's the key thing is, as long as you've got the name ID in and you click that thing with export to bulk email, it will create the bulk email for you.
You can't refresh it. That's the other thing. You did mention that, didn't you?
You have to run it again if you
run it again.
You can't refresh it, but they won't have the refresh link on it.
Right. Okay. The only other question I had was, which you might have covered, there's one already in the system where you're allowed to send an email to everybody who hasn't renewed, for instance.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait a minute. No, it's anybody who hasn't logged in. So they've got an email and they've got a member number, but they've never used our web system.
Yeah.
We didn't create that. It was already there when we bought the system from you. But it puts all 340 names into that list when I click it.
So is it you're saying it's a bulk email or a report?
Yeah. No, it's a bulk email that's already in the system. Now, whether it's because some of our stuff came from Neil or whether it was there for everybody, I don't know.
I don't think you got any of the bulk emails.
Right. Okay. So it's in the system then. So you click it and it puts all my 330 of them that have got email addresses. It puts them all in. I only wanted the ones who hadn't logged in.
Yeah. I don't believe that that's probably a valid one. So I will set, if it's something people want, I'll put it into the standard selections if that's of interest to people.
Yeah, I think it could be. Yeah. Send them a little bit of encouragement to, we got a system, you're paying for it, why not use it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. It's not a straightforward link in that because it's a negative you're checking rather than a positive. So I'll have to work out how to do that. It might have to be done by a report rather than a straightforward SQL selection, or we'll have to see. I'll see what I can do. And if I can put it in the list, I'll put it. If not, we'll have to create the report and put it in master report.
Okay, that's great.
Good. Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yep.
I'm looking at the test system related to our U3A. Should I be able to see 12 additional web pages?
Yes, you
I
should.
can only see 1, 3, 4, and 5.
It depends if you've added them all in the system details.
Yes, so you have to use the. Give me a second, I'll show you. So the idea of systems detail is not to overburden you with parameters. There are over 200 of the things, so we really only select the ones you're going to use. And so you use this thing called so the full list of all the parameters are in the features list. So, so if I do
additional,
additional, so here you can see there they all are there. And so if you want to include them, you go to section list, you decide which section you want to have them in. And I think there probably could be a page here for additional pages. So you show all the features, and you just click on here and say, I'll have 7, 7, 12, 9, 5. There they all are.
Right. Okay.
So now if we go back onto systems details, we'll find that those ones, I think I put them at the end, and I can't remember where I put them now, but so I've added those in. Okay. So if they weren't in there before, they are now. So you can add them in, take them out if you want to. If you're not using them. Lovely. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. Sorry. Can I ask a question? Okay. There's an item I saw in the forum, and it was created by Nick James and others here today, and it was about putting in links to documents that you've got, say, in your Google Drive, etc.
It was I wanted to be able to have a hierarchical list of links, because we've got the library, which is hierarchical, but that just stores files. We've also got the U3A links, which stores links, but that's a flat structure. So I want the hierarchical structure of links, basically.
Well, you've got.
Would you have to move to another document, compose them in a document, and then you click an additional link under that?
Well, you can if you what you want a directory really of being able to access particular reports, documents.
Yeah, we want to keep all our documents in Google Drive, but we want a hierarchical index.
Okay.
To enable access to them.
You've got the archive, but that really is there, which has got a hierarchy in it, and you've got the document store, which has also got folders in there, which you can. In fact, you can go 2 levels, I think, of folders down in the store, so you can put documents in there and have them at 2 levels or 3 levels.
Yeah, but I don't. I want links to the documents, which are elsewhere.
Wouldn't you just put a document in the store, like Chris says, with the so you open one link in there, it shows you that particular list of links, and you close that again, go to another one in that list, and then that opens another list of links.
So, you've got them already set up in the in the Google Drive, have you?
No, well, not at the moment, but that's what we're planning to do. It's so that the committee members and the officers can. Yeah, well, it's basically so that we've just got one copy of all the important documents that the various committee members and officers can see based on their permissions, based on their logins in Google Workspace. But we want the subset of those documents that are available to ordinary members to be accessible from the website. So the way we'd like to do that is to have just a hierarchical list of links to some of those Google Drive documents.
Right. Well, obviously the system's set up to store all those files not in the Google Drive, but you can still store them in the website, and then you can have your structure, and you can.
Yeah, but we don't want to have them on the website.
But could you not also put the hierarchical list in the Google Drive as well, and have an external link on the menu to that hierarchical list?
Yes, you can certainly link.
Yeah, we could, but that would give them access to all the documents.
No. You would only link to the ones that you've linked to, surely.
But the whole point about the storing them in the website is that controls who can see it. Yeah. You've got the whole of the authorities then to decide whether or not people can view them or people can't view them, and therefore there's a committee page where you can put all your committee documents in there, which only the members of the committee can see, and so there's all those controls in there if you need it.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Chris, I thought we had a problem in the past that you were concerned about the amount of storage space we were using with these documents.
Well, it all depends on how big they are. I think the big problem we had in the past was very large images, but now images that get loaded up get resized before they're stored into the website. So things like PDFs tend to be smaller, but yeah, it depends on the volume. I agree. Yeah, but there's no. We haven't hit that limit since we've got the sort of smaller images anyway. Yeah, we're okay.
But at the moment, nearly all of our documents are elsewhere externally anyway.
Right.
And if we were to throw them all on the website, you'd probably not be too happy.
Yeah, it may well be. It depends how big they are, I suppose. How long they are. Yes. Okay.
Well, on Dropbox, there's a couple of 100 meg.
Right. Yeah. I think probably the system may be able to stand that, but
it was the backups on it that was the problem.
It might well be a problem. Yes.
So presumably, then you'd have to bring in some form of archiving policy to remove these somewhere else to control the otherwise you're going to have documents there forevermore. And surely they almost have a part, used by date,
yes,
which they're of no use.
Yeah, generally it's 7 years for tax purposes.
6 years.
6 years. All right then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, when I was working for the government,
six years plus the current year, so it is 7 years.
And I used to say that and a day, and then you're okay.
Yeah. So again, it's part of the system parameters. If you set, you can set information in there, and you can delete things after as many as after the period you decide. So if you want to put things in for 6 years, for instance, I think most people have got the once you delete a member doesn't get deleted until for probably 7 years. It depends on what the parameter is.
I don't think it got deleted at all, because it's only their address gets deleted.
No, I think they go after 7. They go after
even their membership number.
Yes, after. Yep.
Yeah, if they are registered.
I thought it was the 7 years one was only if they'd ever claimed gift aid. So that keeps their address and postcode.
It does. It only if you're not registered with gift aid, it removes all the information straight away, but keeps it for 7 years, and then whatever you set the parameter to be.
Yeah, it is 7 years on ours. Yeah.
The fact is that we're keeping these documents offline because it's easier for people like the treasurer just to automatically have these documents synced from their PC into Google Drive or OneDrive, rather than having to store them on the website.
Yeah, well, yes, I assume you've got a generic email address or account which is treasurer at, and therefore you change your treasurer and you just give it. They just pass that over to the next one. There's no need for people passing stuff from their machines, then, is it?
That's right.
Yeah. So okay, it's Nick. It's an interesting problem. I'll have a think about it and see if I can think about a way in which you could do it. But
okay, thanks.
Doesn't immediately come to mind because it's a way of structuring links, isn't it, rather than documents? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Leave it with me, and I'll have a think.
All right. Cheers.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to raise? Right. Okay. Right. Good. Okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody. We'll do it again in a month, and if you can send me things you want to talk about, and then that's great. Let me know, because it's a bit of a job looking around each month trying to find things to talk about. So let me know. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.